Okay. Yay! We are here today to really talk about in the ideal week blueprint, time management. And it's going to be time management like you never really thought about time management before. And when I started to learn this way of looking at how I organize my time, all of a sudden, a lot of the expectations that I had of myself really changed. And a lot of the disappointments that I'd had in myself and how I manage time really started to fade away. And I was really able to be more aligned with the way I manage my time. And the less stress and the less anxiety and the less self-criticism that we're having around how we manage the time, the more we're really going to be able to get into our unique brilliance and maintain our ideal weight and achieve it. So in today's presentation, we're going to talk about the masculine and feminine approach to time and how it actually affects your health and your eating. And we're going to then go into how to swap those poor habits for positive habits. And we're going to finish with how to organize your time around your health goals. Because one of the things that we always say is, I don't really have time to take care of myself the way I wish I could if, time was unlimited. And really, we're going to flip the script on that so that you always feel like you have enough time to take care of the things that are going to keep you healthy, well, vibrant, and with more ease. Okay, so this is really interesting, and it's something that I had never thought of before. And it is, there we go. It's the masculine and feminine approach to time. So what's really interesting is that our brains are neuroplasticity. And what that means is that the connections between our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions are like spider webs in our brain. And they are constantly changing and being reinforced. So if you think about a house that's been broken down, like Halloween house, right? A haunted house, and you go in and the cobwebs on the ceiling are thick and scary, like the spiders have been there for years, webbing and webbing and webbing and reinforcing and reinforcing and reinforcing. And that's what a lot of our old habit loops are, is they're old, scary, dark, cobwebby rooms that we really don't want to go into because they're intimidating and they definitely don't look pleasant and they're kind of scary. And so we actually have the ability when we go in and we take a broom and we kind of clean those ceiling boards, we're able to clean off those cobwebs with actually relative ease. It's really more the fear of going into the room to clean and what we're going to find that it is difficult to actually remove the cobwebs. And what's cool is those spiders will come back and they can weave new cobwebs, but they're going to be thin, they're going to be new, and over time they're going to become strong again. But this time they're going to be ones that we're choosing, as if we could design how they would be, how they would go. So it's really cool that our brains are really so plastic and able to be changed. That being said, let's talk a little bit about what I'm talking about when I say a masculine and a feminine approach to time. Who here has ever studied any time management books before? You ever read a time management book, right? You have listened to a time management webinar, a podcast maybe. Most of them are done by men, right? There are some women who talk about time management, but if you would listen to it, they're really recycling a lot of the, I don't know, I guess like what's been passed down in Torah language, the Masorah, right? The traditions of time management that have been passed down from a hierarchy of men. And that's wonderful, because what are the words that we associate with time management? Being very committed, being very focused, being very disciplined, being very accountable. And in the best case, also being humble, right? Being present in the moment, not being distracted. And for a lot of us women, when we are trying to make that happen for ourselves, what we find is that instead of feeling committed, we feel burned out. Instead of feeling focused, we are trying to multitask. Instead of feeling like we're being disciplined, we always feel like we're not quite measuring up because other things are constantly coming in and we're trying to be disciplined to do this at this time, but then our kids need us. And then we get this work phone call and then somebody in our community is reaching out to us. And we just end up feeling undisciplined, even though we're doing our best. Honest, accountable, I think definitely we have those traits, humility, presence, and not distracted. So there's a tweak on those from kind of a empowered feminine. And that's, instead of committed, strong with boundaries. Women are incredibly strong. We are incredibly powerful, especially when we have boundaries. More than committed, it has to go exactly this way in exactly this form. That leads for us, the way we relate to the universe, in a lot of frustration, silent frustration, where we start to feel inadequate. We start to feel like imposters. We start to feel like we're not quite ever measuring up to this perfect, committed picture. But when we're strong and we have boundaries, then we're generally protecting our time. We're generally protecting what's supposed to happen today in the right order. And we're protecting ourselves from unnecessary distractions, but we're doing it from a place of flexibility. Women have the power of being vulnerable versus being humble and honest. Women have the power of being vulnerable. And the difference between being humble and honest and being vulnerable is humble and honest is still very in control. We have to be controlling of everything, and we're not really connected to our emotions. Vulnerability is being humble and being honest, but from a place that's connected to your emotions and your mind. And that's why women were given the Torah first, because we could dig deeper into it and we could understand that it wasn't just about following laws, it was about the spiritual closeness that following laws would create. It was about vulnerability, that when we commit to something, we're making ourselves vulnerable to how it's going to play out, how it's going to affect us. Women, we are receptive and confident. Sometimes a masculine energy is very not distractible. So even if something comes up, they're very focused. They are not going to stop what they're doing and deal with this person's need or what is happening over here. And with women, we're more able to be receptive to the environment around us and sense nuances that men can't always in the same way. Now, all women and all men have some masculine and some feminine, okay? So it's not that we're all feminine and no masculine, and they're all masculine, no feminine. Everybody has some of both, but our dominant strengths are in the feminine and their dominant strengths are in the masculine. Okay. We enjoy the process of creation. It's why we're the ones who get pregnant. We're the ones who have babies, because whether or not you've ever enjoyed a pregnancy, because I mean, there are times that I certainly did, and there are times that I certainly wish my husband could have carried that baby. Definitely, I think when I was growing up would definitely be a time that I would have passed. And I think definitely times in the birth where I think he could have handled it for me, but it's okay. But overall, we enjoy the process of creation. We enjoy building a beautiful home. We enjoy building a business. We enjoy building and creating in a way that is always related to others. If you guys remember when we discussed Hanukkah, when we discussed other things, what everybody kept saying was so important to them: connection, 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 connection. We're very intuitive. Even though we know we've scheduled something at a certain time, sometimes we can be very intuitive and we know that the stars are actually not aligned to do this at this time. And if you are time blocking and scheduling things in a very masculine way without acknowledging your feminine superpowers, you can feel like a failure because you time blocked to clean the kitchen or to send out this work email or to cook dinner at 5. And at 5 o'clock, your kid really needs help with their homework, or your client really needs you, or you're just not sensing that this is the right time to send that email. And if you're going by a very time blocking structured approach, then you're going to feel constantly like you're fighting your own instincts. Women, our main superpower is that we are confident in the result, but flexible in the means to get there. So this is kind of how we're going to approach time, that we need our masculine powers. We need our masculine side, but we have to take the feminine and we have to look at it through that lens and be like, okay, I want to be organized. I want to be disciplined. I want to be committed. I want to be focused, but I want to do it in a way that respects my superpowers, the fact that I am intuitive, the fact that I can sense other things that are happening around me. And I don't always have to do it exactly how I set it up if I sense that something better has actually come into being. So how does this affect weight gain? Well, when we are stuck in our masculine side, because we really just want to do things right, and all the books and all of the lectures and all the podcasts are really pushing us into that mode, what happens is we get really attached to success. We're like, well, if this didn't work, then it has no value. If I don't see a definable, clear result. So this affects our relationship with the scale, right? If we go through a Shabbos and we just had this most incredible connected experience and we really enjoyed every bite of our food and we really ate nutritionally, but we had some treats and we had this amazing Shabbos spiritually, emotionally, physically, and the scale was up. If we're stuck in that masculine vision of time, it just bursts the bubble of all of the amazing things that we achieved. If you ever felt the need to be right, right? Anytime we're feeling that need to be right, it's probably because we're looking at time and how things need to be done and how we expect them to be done through a very closed box. It has to be done like this. It needs to be done at this time because, oh my gosh, I don't know, like, you don't understand what's going to happen, how it's going to affect me, how it's going to affect the house. We get in this very need to be right mindset that's a broken masculine, stuck in our head and not in our emotions. I know I can't even describe how many times I will be overthinking and overthinking and overthinking and overthinking and not allowing myself to feel really what would be best. What does this person need? Instead, I'm being very cerebral, very focused on what do they need? Okay, my kid comes home upset. Okay, do they need a new backpack? Do they need new school supplies? Maybe I need to call this kid's mother who upset them versus actually listening to them, hearing what they need, and then responding with that intuition. Defensive or aggressive? How many times have we felt defensive over our need to have things scheduled in a very concrete way, exactly how we like it, and then aggressive to others around us when they are not complying with our very clear way that we want this done? Because it's really the best for everybody. And we know it's the best for everybody. And we really only have an hour. And when Shabbos is coming and everybody isn't doing their jobs on time, then we're not going to get the cooking done on time. And then we're going to be really too tired when it gets to Shabbos. And our brain and everything gets really overworked and we get defensive and we get aggressive. Well, what does it look like when we're really not aligned in our feminine? Because like I said, we all have both. Princess. Victimhood. You don't know. It's really always my husband. He brings all of these desserts into the house every Shabbat. It's ridiculous. And my kids, they never listen. This victimhood, this naivete that we don't have the ability to have influence over our environment or what's around us. The saboteur. We're constantly looking for external validation. We're feeling very insecure and manipulative. That happens when we aren't getting the closeness, the connection that we really want on Shabbat. And we end up over snacking. We end up trying to get attention in negative ways, arguing with our kids or arguing with our husband, when really all we want is to feel close, is to feel connected, is to feel like we're engaging in our community. Martyr. This one is super positive on Shabbos, right? We're oversharing. We are desperate for love and we are sacrificing ourselves because we really, really are desperately desiring for our kids to have a good Shabbos, for our spouse to have a good Shabbos, for the home to be happy, for Shalom Bayis. We just desperately want everyone to be happy. And when we're coming from that very desperate place, then it always ends in weight gain. I'll give you guys a second, check out anything you want to take notes on. Okay, so how can we actually see this come out in terms of weight gain behaviors. So when we are unhappy in that wounded masculine energy, when we're feeling that aggressive and defensive, part of how it comes out is when we find ourselves eating rebellious foods. How many times have you found yourself eating the kids' Fritos that they leave out, or eating the frosting, or going for the bagel and the cookies that you didn't really want, but you're feeling that sense of rebelliousness that is very aligned with that aggressive, defensive, wounded, masculine way. We're looking at our time and we're looking at our energy management over Shabbat and over our life. Weight gain, unhappy, wounded feminine. When we're feeling lonely, when we're feeling not understood and heard, and we're feeling empty. And that is connected to binging and overeating. When we get home from work and we're totally empty, or we get home from carpool and there's a million things to do, and we open up the pantry and 30 minutes later, we don't know what happened. Or we're having guests and we're taking care of everybody and we're martyring ourselves, but we're not being present in an intuitive, connected, loving way. We're feeling like we're over giving in a way that leaves us feeling empty. And all of a sudden, in the tummy is all the food. So what does it look like when we are aligned and empowered with our masculine energy and our feminine energy? So when we're using a strategic use of masculine energy, we are having some organization. We are having a focus. We are having some discipline around how we set up our home, or a framework for how we're enjoying our meals. But we're also treating joyfully. We're treating mindfully. We're fully present. We're intentional in what we're enjoying, and we're listening to our intuition. This is the best time for me to sit down with this friend and have this cookie. This is really going to be a whole, awesome, enjoyable experience. And that's what it feels like when you, and we've all felt that way sometimes. We all have been aligned at one time or another. And also we spend a lot of our time not aligned. So what is the blueprint for finding your ideal weight mindset? Number one, it's knowing what works for you and accepting what is crucial. So if you see that you lean more towards the wounded masculine, it's really starting to work on being in a healthier masculine energy and starting to develop a little bit skill training those feminine qualities that every single one of us has. And we lead that equals a sustainable food relationship that really stops weight regain forever. Our ideal weight mindset blueprint will always work like this: clarity in our lifestyle and what we want to work on, and then the confidence for our group, with your coach, with yourself, that you will make progress. It's not going to be immediate when we talk about time, but one of a female's spiritual superpowers is that we can bend time. And while it doesn't have to be as linear as we all expect, there are times that we have seen that we've had tremendous growth and tremendous progress very quickly. And there are times where we see things slow. There are different seasons. And so we need to be confident in our actions and not as focused constantly on the end result in the short term. We need to keep an eye on our results to make sure we're going in the right direction, but we're really focused more on the behavior and the alignment. The most important part is gratitude, because every single time we're really delving into gratitude, it creates the frame for every single other thing we're seeing in our life. And it really helps us continue to come back to alignment, because I every day spend time in my wounded masculine and my wounded feminine around time and how I relate to the world. But the more that we develop a sense of gratitude, the more that we can start to bring ourselves back into alignment. And to help you guys with that, we have a 30-day gratitude challenge happening in the Facebook group for you guys to keep developing that if you want. So get excited about feeling good, feel grateful in your life, focused on your relationships, and appreciation is the secret to moving food focus with the ideal weight mindset. Okay, and No, hold on. Share screen. Are you guys seeing the presentation? Okay, there we go. Okay. So plate it for your ideal weight mindset. So one of the people I studied under was Alana Mulstein, who wrote the book, You Can Lose It, from the 2V Mindset. And some of you guys know it, some of you don't. This is just a colorful image and it's important copyright. I have to give her credit for it. It's hers and it's her way of looking at food. But that's not exactly what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to eat for your ideal weight mindset in terms of time management in setting up your healthy habits. So one of the things that I want you guys to do that it says in the workshop is now if you could take out, or I sent you it in a Word document as well as in a PDF. So if you want to write on your computer while we do this, you can really we're going to look at when will I shop for healthy food? When will I prepare or purchase it? When will I eat it? And what you're going to see is when I actually ask you a concrete question, you're going to need to lean into both your masculine and your feminine. Well, when will I shop for healthy food needs to be a concrete time. I mean, there needs to be a real time set and boundaries around that time, and there needs focus and there needs to be discipline. This is when I shop. But what happens when our kids are homesick, or right, Alana, they're not at school today? Like that's real life. And so we have to be able to use our feminine power and be like, I am going to shop for healthy food, but I need to have boundaries around that time, but that time might not be the time I originally thought it was going to be, because I can focus on the important connection I need to have and the important presence I need to have. The same way you made it on the call today, even though you have things going on around you. Give you guys an example for this as you start to think about for yourself and write down when this week you're going to purchase healthy food, when you're going to stop to prepare or order in healthy food. Functionally, like what times you want to think you're going to eat and what time during the day you will actually eat the healthy food. Like what's going to be your general breakfast time? What's going to be your general lunch time? What's going to be your general dinner time? It can be like, I'm going to eat lunch between 1 and 3 or 12 and 2, but you can have that like feminine balance of saying between these times, I'm going to make sure I eat lunch. Or you can lean into your masculine and be like, no matter what, 12:30, unless a crisis is happening, I'm going to eat my lunch. Most of us, if we're not hungry at that time, we want to have that feminine intuition and flexibility versus I'll tell you, when I deal with male clients, they're like, no, I said I was going to eat at 12:30. Of course I'm going to eat at 12:30. Hungry? I'm not hungry. I said I was going to eat at 12:30. I don't really care. And they're really much more linear. So as much as even when we lean into our masculine, our feminine's always there. We're always also leaning into our intuition at the same time. So for example, I'm supposed to be moving back into my house tomorrow. And today, wonderful. They're getting everything ready for us to move in tomorrow, but they were supposed to clean the house for us to move in tomorrow. And not everything got finished. So they're going to spend the first 4 hours tomorrow finishing up things in the house. And then they're going to clean it. So our whole timetable is moved. When we're stuck in that wounded masculine, we get defensive. I can't believe the contract just didn't finish on time. How could this person have been late? Look what he did. And then that turns into aggressive. Well, they're just going to have to make it up, right? And then we get all worked up and we could very easily hit the pantry and calm ourselves down with some rebellious foods. But leaning into our feminine power can say like, okay, it's really important. We are moving in tomorrow no matter what. The movers are scheduled. They are coming. Strong with boundaries, but exactly what time those beds are going to be made, exactly when and if we're going to unpack is still unknown. And that's okay, because I know that I'm going to order in a healthy dinner. So that's already settled. I know I'm going to have breakfast and lunch prepared the night before so that no matter what time the fridge is moved or unplugged or whatever, I'll have everything ready and set by a friend so I can go with the flow. And that's using your feminine power. If you are using your masculine power, you would say, okay, I am going to create my menu. I'm going to make all the food. I'm going to be very structured and measure it all out. I'm going to make sure the kids understand this is what they are eating for lunch and this is all they're getting for lunch and that is just how it is. And I'm going to put it by this neighbor, or I'm going to order it in a very clear, structured, defined way. How does this affect our treats, our rest, and our activity? Because if we're not dealing with those things, or if those are equally important to when you'll shop for healthy food, when you'll prepare, purchase it, and when you're going to eat it. Because the most frustrating thing is when you actually succeed in doing the workout, in doing in a healthy affirmation, in making sure you have healthy food, and then because of the wounded feminine or the wounded masculine, you act out and you don't get to see the results that you want. So first step is really leaning into, I need to have a time that I am, even though it's Hanukkah, even though there's vacation, even though I'm flying, even though I'm in a foreign country, I will shop for healthy food. I will set a way that works for me intuitively and with my schedule to make sure I'm preparing what I need, or I know where to purchase what I need. And I know that I'm not going to skip meals. I'm going to eat 3 times a day, sufficient, healthy meals. How will I move each day? Movement, whether it doesn't have to be a very structured exercise plan where you do this workout at this day and this workout on this day and then this workout on this day and this workout on this day. That's fine. That can be discipline. That can be a healthy masculine approach. But a feminine approach is I am going to move my body every single day. Whether it's a walk, whether it's yoga, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's, running around the park with my kids, but I'm really going to look at my watch and I'm going to set 30 minutes that I'm actually going to be really moving my body. How will I deepen my intuition? Remember that the more we're stuck in our head and out of our feelings and our body, the more that we're going to feel disconnected and binge and overeat, or act out in a rebellious way. So you want to ask yourself, what speaks to you personally? Because this is different for everybody and everybody at different stages in their journey to deepen their intuition. For me, I have been very into meditation the last 2 years. For 4 years before that, I wanted to do meditation, but it really did not speak to me. It took different areas of growth and vulnerability for me to be open and be able to do it. And it took time for me to even be able to focus at all for any length of time meditating. So you have to lean into what helps you deepen your intuition. Maybe it's being out in nature. Maybe it is reading books. Maybe it is exercise and you connect to your body and your intuition that way. Maybe it's in your parenting. Figure out what works for you right now on your journey. And this is a great thing to set up an implementation session with me about to figure out how you're going to do that. And that includes rest. Sometimes when we're just not sleeping enough, that's what kicks us out of that ability to be intuitive. And instead we feel impulsive, defensive, aggressive, or, the princess, the saboteur, the martyr, because we are so tired, we're not really using our executive functioning to be intuitive. How will I delight myself? Yes, if we are not happy, and if we are not actively working on being happy, then really what's the point of all this? Because I have served many a woman who ignored this and lost a bunch of weight and was unhappy. She was not happier after she lost weight than when she didn't. In fact, it felt like the scale of how thin she needed to be to feel happy, to be worthy of happiness, just kept slipping out of reach. Just like with money, right? You can feel like this is what I need to be successful. This amount of money equals success in my business. And then as you get there, it just keeps moving farther away because you're not having gratitude. You're not finding delight. You're not finding wonder in the process, in what it feels like to sit down to a beautiful, yummy meal, to what it feels like to be connected, what it feels like to host without being a martyr. So my mission for you guys in this program is to create an ideal weight mindset. And to do that, we have the Shabbat Ideal Weight Blueprint. And every single lesson in this blueprint, and every workshop, and every tutorial, and everything that you're going to get while we are together on this journey has clarity, confidence, and then gratitude. So today we talked about what a weight gain mindset is versus an ideal weight mindset. A weight gain mindset being the wounded versions of our masculine and feminine approaches to time management and how we're handling things in terms of Shabbos and our emotions. We talked about optimizing your health, making sure that you're using your time management skills on your health first. Because if you don't have a healthy body, then no matter how successful your business is, no matter how amazing your marriage is, no matter how successful and wonderful and happy your children are, you are not going to be able to enjoy them because you are going to be in pain. You are going to be aging poorly. You are going to live less time, and you are not going to be active and engaged and fully present in this incredible life you are creating. So your relationship to your body and food and nutrition on a health level has to come first when you're organizing your time, before your work, before your kids' activities, before anything else. If you're not healthy, you're not going to be around to enjoy any of it. And we discussed the difference between a masculine and a feminine approach. It's a time to make those priorities happen. I would love to schedule an implementation call with anybody who needs. Email me your filled out assignment from your form today, and you can always show me and interact with me also on Instagram and in our WhatsApp group.